Welcome to the Pottery Speak, you guys. I am teaching you guys how to throw a mug today. So we're going to go through the whole process of how to throw it, and this is just giving you guys a beautiful shape. You guys, there are so many ways to create different mugs, so take this with a grain of salt. Pottery is done in so many different versions, and this is just how I like to make my mugs. I also like to do more artistic mugs. These are my more traditional style mugs, so enjoy. All right, you guys, let's get straight into it. So I already have this pugged and ready to go. This is 1.5 pounds of clay, and my bat was already wet, so I wiped it. So it is already like sopping because it was dirty. So when that happens, I just kind of wiggle my clay around and get it stuck on there and tap it. You never have to throw your clay onto the wheel. I see that a lot. You don't ever have to do that. Don't break somebody's bat. It's just gonna break it. It's pointless, you guys. So we're going and we're centering, and I'm not going to do a huge video on how to center because you guys can always check that video out. That's a whole video in itself. But as we're working, my hands are going up and down. I do have my 3-point system, so my elbows are down. My hands are touching the entire time. And when they're not, when I take my hands off, remember, one hand off at a time, always. So I'm showing you how to center here by pushing with your left hand and pulling in with your right. Remember, these videos are backwards. I like to remind you guys that because it's so confusing when you're watching videos online. But my right hand is actually the one with the sponge right now. So my right hand is pulling that clay up. My left thumb is pushing that clay down. And we're just continuously doing that to center until we have a traffic cone, because we like traffic cones. We don't like inflatable tube man. Somebody needs to buy me an inflatable tube man for somewhere in the pottery studio for Christmas, okay? I say that word so much. You guys are probably sick of it. If we could have one outside of the Potter's Peak, I probably would. Okay, so now we're doing our karate chop. So my hands are touching, as you guys can see, and we're pushing that clay down. This is going to give us a good base to start with. We call it our hockey puck. And now we are going to check our thickness. So while we're in here, I wanted to really show you guys a different angle. So bear with me as I adjust. So we have our 2 fingers. They're always touching. Our elbows are down, and we're going right in that middle, straight down. If you're having a hard time finding the middle, start from your 6 o'clock and let your fingers find it. So we're going down, but we're not going all the way down because we don't want to have a planter. So we are going just a little bit, and now we are checking our thickness with a wooden pin tool. And we should be about a finger's width. Beautiful, perfect, ready to go. Now, I like to throw with a sponge the entire time, 100% up to you. So I'm going to pull this back. These little sponges are great guides for how big a bottom of a mug should be. You can change this a million different ways because mugs are very subjective. You can make the bottom of your mug however wide you want. So I'm going to make it about the same width as my cup. And this is my traditional style mug. There's no obviously it's an art because I'm creating it with my own 2 hands, but I'm not making an artistic style mug. This is a more traditional style, more functional wear, something that is more in like a production kind of style studio where we're just busting out a bunch of mugs, you know? We're not production potters here, but we also, have had multiple times where we used to be, and we used to have to create lots and lots and lots. All right, so I'm making that C for my hand, and my thumb is pushing in, and my sponge is actually wrapped completely around that rim, and I'm creating that little bit of a donut there, and then I'm going to pull this up and in all at the same time. Up and in, and I'm staying controlled. My wheel is not going too fast. We are staying in control that entire time. And now our hands are going to change, and this is where we actually start our pulls. So our middle fingers are going to pretend like they're best friends, and they're going to be working through that clay. So middle finger to middle finger. My inside middle finger is not pushing. It is just my finger on the outside. And you guys will see the little indent. You can also do it with your knuckles. That's a great way of doing it too. There's a lot of knuckle throwers, and that's totally fine. I use my fingers, but if it gets big for bigger pots, Your knuckles are actually amazing to use, but for smaller ones, I like to use my middle fingers. So you guys see that little lip right there? Every single pull, you should have that tiny little lip right there. And we're gonna pull that all the way up, and my hands are still touching. So they're still best friends. Our hands are conjoined at all times. They're always together. And then remember, one hand off at a time, regroup that rim. And now we're just gonna keep doing that. I'm gonna play some music, and we're just gonna keep doing our pulls over and over and over, and regrouping our rim. See all that weight on the bottom of that pot? That's what we're pulling up. So going slow, pulling that all the way up, getting all the way to the top, and regrouping our rim right after every single pull. You guys can start seeing my throwing lines, and it's just a beautiful thing as you're going. And you just keep doing that until you have the size and the shape that you want, and it turns into a beautiful mug. So we're just gonna keep doing that same kind of thing until we get the shape that we want. As we're doing this, I lied, I'm not like, music is on in the background, but I was told by my almost 13-year-old daughter that my videos are boring. So I thought it was quite funny because they're just pottery informational videos, but apparently they're really boring. So I'm sorry if I'm just boring you guys. Don't watch it. Tell me if I'm boring. Tell me the truth, you guys. Okay, I know you guys are watching this at the studio, so if you guys are watching this from the studio and you're like, oh my gosh, this is putting me to sleep, tell me the truth, okay? Unless it's just really good information, and then it's okay if I'm putting you to sleep. All right, starting all the way at the bottom again. And once we get thinner and thinner, we do have to be more and more careful. As we get taller, our hands have to go slower, and that means our wheel has to go slower as well. So our wheel and our hands are both going very slow. We have to make a full circle around the entire pot before we can actually pull our hands up, or else half of our pot is going to be uneven and our walls are not going to be correct. We'll have uneven walls. We don't want that. We want to try to stay as even as possible. So regrouping that rim is really important. It puts balance back into your pot, and it makes it so we stay even the entire way. And then you also don't get really sharp. Have you ever drank out of a mug and it's really sharp? We don't want that. We don't want that. So I'm going to kind of color this in a little bit because I want this to be a little bit more tailored in the center. So when you do that, it is the 3-point system. So I have my thumb, my index finger is like pad of my knuckle there, and then my middle finger. And I just kind of scoop that in very slowly. After you do that, make sure you do a pull. So we're going to do a pull for this. Get it all the way up. You guys can judge me off my pulling lines, my throwing lines. And as we're going, because I colored it in, it knocked it off uneven a little bit. That'll happen. It's not that big of a deal. You can always fix it with a few pulls and it goes away. So now I'm going to shape my pot, and this is when you can actually use the inside of your inside fingers to shape. So my inside fingers are all the way down at the base, and my sponge is on the spot where I actually don't want it to move. So I like an hourglass mug, so I'm pushing that bottom and I'm shaping that top. Just pulling it back slightly. It's a very, very slight movement to kind of shape that mug. And then I always regroup the rim every single time. Get the water out of the bottom. Don't swipe it because we don't want thin spots. Now, my favorite tool, all-time favorite tool, if you are a potter, this is the only tool you really, really, truly need, is a red rib for mud tools. These guys are absolutely amazing, and this one is so flexible, it creates beautiful shaped mugs. I always like to shape with my fingers first, and then take a tool and just really advance where, really kind of nitpick what I want it to look like at that point. And that's it. And then we have a beautiful mug, and we're gonna fix the foot at the bottom. I bought a new footer tool and I don't really like it so far. It has to be like a thick foot, and so I'm gonna try to figure it out, but I think I'm gonna do a whole video on just feet for pottery, and we're gonna use this tool in that video. So for as of right now, I ended up not using it. I played with it for a second and realized this is gonna look stupid, and I put it away. So with that being said, here's the end of this video, and I hope you guys enjoyed. All right, did you do it? Did you guys create that mug? So super excited to see all the photos, and I think that your mug is going to turn out beautiful. So keep practicing, because pottery does not get better unless you practice. It is definitely one of those things you have to continuously practice to get better at. So tag us in that comment, send us a photo of your mug. We're super excited to see it. So don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to our channel. We're still new here. We're trying to build our page, and we would love to have a good community of people and be able to share all of our pottery knowledge with you guys. All right, bye you guys.